What's up, guys? It's Steve Braconi with Team Braconi, once again with Alfredo Vastola. We have an awesome show planned today. We're going to speak about working backwards a little bit with the clients when we first meet them and how to strategize going forward in purchasing the home. We're going to talk about the spring market and what's ahead and how to strategically enter that spring market, both as, I guess, a seller and a buyer.
As an agent, too.
And as an agent, of course. So with that said, Alfredo, take it away.
Awesome to be here again. Right off the bat, as you mentioned, something that we've typically concentrated with our agents on our team has always been when you meet your buyer, basically, well, obviously it would be a buyer situation, is most people want to ask what their budget is in terms of what the purchase price of the home is. So you ask like, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. What can you afford? They'll usually say 500 to 600. That has no bearing, especially when different towns in different counties have different tax rates, and sometimes we're even in the condo market. So the reason wanted to bring this up is because Zillow actually recently unveiled an affordability tool themselves, so they can give buyers searching online an option to filter by monthly affordability. So I thought that was interesting. It probably came up more recently because of the extreme fluctuation in interest rates, but definitely wanted to get some thoughts on that from you, and and kind of like a little bit of gratification, because we've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. So for me, in doing it 20 years, I've actually never done it that way. I just found that even when the rates were consistent, meaning the rates didn't change or fluctuate very much, if at all, and there were periods of time that months or even a year went by where there was really not much change in the interest rates, which obviously would change the affordability of a home for a client, I still didn't feel comfortable, or I just didn't typically ask. Now they might provide it, right? The buyer might say, I'm looking for a home at $700,000 up to $800,000. But what I would always do, and it's even more so important today, to your point, because the rates do fluctuate a lot. So $700,000 or $800,000 home might be much more affordable or much less affordable 30 days from now, depending on what the rates do. So I would always work backwards.
Right.
So I would say, that's fine. Let's talk to a mortgage rep. Here's 2 or 3 or whatever that I want to recommend and felt they would be a good situation for that particular buyer. And then they'd plug in their information and they'd work backwards. So based on a specific town, for example, the taxes might vary quite a bit. So we would have those taxes. If it's a condo, we'd have to insert that HOA fee.
Yes.
So we'd work backwards, because it was literally 50-50 in the sense that oftentimes clients thought they could afford much more and then they wouldn't be comfortable or didn't qualify, one or the other. And other times they're like, oh, geez, I didn't realize that was the payment. I guess it's a lot less than I thought. I would be comfortable going up to $900,000, which is a much easier move. But if you take a client out who, for example, says, I'm comfortable, whatever number, purchasing at $1 million. And a lot of agents, in my opinion, make that mistake, and they take the client out and start looking at homes for $1 million. And then they become interested, perhaps want to make an offer. They go to get a pre-approval, but they're only qualified for $800,000 or whatever the number. That's a very difficult conversation to have, but even more difficult in my experience would be to pull back and let them go back to continuing to look. And now you're looking at homes that are far less value. So you're looking at homes that, that they can't afford. And now they've seen what is much more much more expensive, and they're accustomed to that size bedrooms, that size bathrooms, that size home. And now they have to scale back. It's kind of looking at a very, very nice, expensive car and then realizing that's not what I can afford. I have to adjust.
Yeah. And they may even if they can get pre-approved for it, maybe they realize the number's not what they wanted to spend on a monthly basis anyway. So now you're back to square one. We actually did get a question on the Zillow portion, and I don't know exactly how accurate it is. I know that they're also working on their.
What was the question?
It was how accurate can the Zillow home the monthly payment estimates be? It's yet to be determined. I think they need to figure out, How they're going to work through that, I have no idea on their back end. I think it's just smart that they're thinking about it, because it is the right way to think about.
It probably have to be a range, because
Yeah.
unless you put in your specifics, you know,
Right.
if you're a W-2 or 1099, where your income's coming from, how much savings you have or don't have, what your credit is. So if they're not plugging all those things in, that's going to change.
Yep.
And also a change, you know, like we said, the rate changes with the bonds, the treasury bonds. So
Yeah.
that might change too. I don't know how often they're updating.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just the idea that they're acknowledging now,
Right. That's
that it's not always, I want to look at $1 million home. It's, I'm comfortable with a $5,000 payment.
I would say maybe it's as accurate as there's estimates.
Right. Which is a range.
Which is a
right?
range.
Right. Which is a large range sometimes. I've seen it 10% or more, you know,
Yeah.
with the range. So
Yeah. Again, I think it's smart that they're looking at it that way, because that's the way we've always looked at it, you know. And people, especially nowadays, everything's a subscription. You know, you have your Netflix subscription, you have your car payment monthly, everything's monthly. So you kind of know that before knowing what the total purchase price is going to be.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say just in general about this topic is it's almost like building a house. And that's how I explained to the client. This is the foundation of the home. Unless you have those numbers in place and everyone's on the same page, you put it on the table, everyone's comfortable. This is what I'm comfortable spending per month. This is what I plan to put down. And you've worked backwards. Again, that purchase price probably will change because this market is shifting quickly. Yeah. But at least you have, at the end of the day, if you run those numbers and they've shifted, you know that was not the plan. You have your plan in place. So if you see those rates creep up, you know you're going to have to either make a lower offer, which is difficult in this market, or adjust your price point, and vice versa. If you see those rates come down, you know you can be a little bit more aggressive with your offers, or come to the next price point, which maybe they'll be a little bit more happy with what they're getting.
And I'll admit, maybe it's my ignorance. I'm actually not super familiar with taxes in other states. I just know that New Jersey's pretty wild. I mean, you could be looking in 4 or 5 different towns, and they all have different tax rates. So that's going to affect your monthly as well.
Well, and buyers don't always understand that, because I've owned several homes. That one was in Arizona, and ironically, my annual taxes on my home in Arizona, which was about the equal value of my home in New Jersey, so my annual taxes in Arizona were equal to my quarterly taxes in New Jersey. So roughly, the New Jersey property taxes were 4 times greater than Arizona. And so when buyers come from out of state, they don't immediately understand that. And to your point, towns can vary significantly. I've seen as low as 1%, and as high as well 1%. Over 3%.
Yeah, actually, Alpine is under 1.
So it does happen.
But the property values are pretty high over there. Right. But so in Arizona, for example, are they doing it town by town? How they calculate?
It's more county.
County. Okay, I figured that much.
Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was Maricopa County. It was a home in Scottsdale area.
Much. Okay. Yeah, because in like I said, in New Jersey, it's this town and next neighboring town is completely different tax rate. So you really have to figure out. And I actually oftentimes provide that information to, especially if a client's just looking in a specific county. They may have like 4 or 5 towns in mind, but here's your effective tax rate, meaning you will pay roughly this based on the market value of the property, because in reality, it's calculated by general rate, but the effective rate is used as a tool to help buyers compare from one market to another. But even more to our point is we're also in the waterfront community, and you have a lot of condo buildings. So as well as a lot of towns, you have Fort Lee.
You have 2 counties.
Yeah, 2 counties, multiple towns along the waterfront: Fort Lee, Edgewater, Gutenberg, West New York, Weehawken, Hoboken, Jersey Cities, multiple sections of Jersey City. Within those condos, you have different varying HOAs. There's some co-ops. We don't have tremendous amount, but we do have co-ops. So, I often like to put spreadsheets together for my clients. Like, we've looked at 4 buildings, and we've looked at 2 units in each building. Here's the monthly breakdown for each, because then you can understand, I think this building makes more sense for me, or this town in this building makes more sense for me, because it's just too many numbers for them, and especially when they're overwhelmed with which place they
we do that a lot, and they may say this is 800,000 to 800,000. I like this better, but once they run the numbers, they realize that $800,000 of holding costs, because the HOA is double, and the taxes are nearly double,
Right.
that's more like a 1.5 holding, at
Yep.
the end of the day, or 1.2
Exactly.
holding, whatever it
That
might be.
happens all the time. The house, the condo could be 800, but the HOA is 1,200, a month, and that's why they like the home so much, because the price is a little bit lower because of the high HOA. So
The bottom line, work backwards.
yeah,
Run your
that's it.
numbers.
Work backwards.
Worry about the monthly payment, or be more
Yeah.
concerned with the monthly payment. We're getting to spring market now. I went to Florida for a week. I came back. It was warmer here than it was Florida. So the weather is starting to change. It's going to be sporadic. But
Yeah.
as that happens, we're starting to see buyers that have been on the sidelines or kind of holding off, a little bit cold and waiting for the spring. Now things are turning a little bit greener outside. Certainly warmer. 70s is going to be normal. 86 was, or 93 or whatever it was crazy. But what are you seeing for the spring market?
I mean, it's go time. This is the period of time where we do the most work. But we also, as agents, have to be the most knowledgeable, because there's a lot of varying information in different markets, as we've discussed before. Buyers coming, and if they're not familiar with this particular market, what's going on? Are there multiple offers? We have to be the knowledge broker to provide the most up to date, accurate information for the market, so that our clients can make the most informed decision when they're looking to either buy or sell their home.
And I also want to say with the go time, I just want to make this clear, because the mistake I see in some of the agents on our team, and we try to coach them the best we can, but a lot of agents in general, when it's slow, they're kind of waiting for the phone to ring. And then when it's busy, they're running around like crazy. I think it's extremely important to become structured and know where your time is spent most efficiently. When there is downtime, it's not really downtime.
Right.
It's organization, structure, marketing plan, and putting everything into place. So as things become busier, you have that structure completely intact, and you're ready to go as efficiently as possible. And then when it's busy, you implement that structure, all that marketing time and money that's gone in, and the follow-ups you've done. Now you make sure that client thinks of you when they're ready to go, and you add value. If you're providing a service and you're adding value, a lot of clients will see a benefit in that, and they will be loyal. If you don't, or you're just sitting back, or sometimes not so much just sitting back, but reaching out, but really adding no effective value. And that happens a lot. I ask sometimes to see the agents' emails that go out, and they're just either completely generic, or they just offer no substance. So as a consumer, if I get that, and I've bought homes in other states, multiple other states, I don't really feel the responsibility to respond, or that they didn't put much thought into it. So I don't feel bad. I don't want to say I ignore them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to facilitate a conversation. But if it's customized to me and it's adding value, and it seems like
guilty.
thought is there, well, you want to respond, because it feels like that does feel like I'm ignoring them now. So I think there's a big difference in, to your point, when it's go time, as long as you've done everything that you should be doing when things are a little slower,
that's exactly right.
just as important as hustling when things are busier. And hustling efficiently is a much different thing than showing this home, showing that home, and then forgetting to follow up with this client. That just maximizes wasted time, becomes completely inefficient. And that's what causes, in my opinion, much of the frustration and burnout. Like, oh, this doesn't work. This is never going to work. I'm just completely wasting my time. Well, you are, if you don't view each client as a relationship and conduct that sort of adding value process throughout time, so that when they're ready, you're there to provide the service. Most agents don't have a home that they're selling unless it's their own. Mm-hmm. They're either retained by a seller, or they're looking and providing a service to find the right home. And that buyer, that client, has to retain them to negotiate on their behalf, thinking that the best person to represent their best interest and their fiduciary duty will be with that buyer.
That's right. And when I was, kind of, the reason I said it's go time is all that work that you did in that downtime, that holiday season, reaching out to clients, all those follow-ups, all that work, the handwritten letters, perhaps, the thank you, end of year thank you letters, whatever you did as your follow-up routines, and those are going to start reaping their rewards. And it's time to grab those and really run with it, because, once July hits, we definitely slow down. I mean, it's been kind of odd the last few years because of just the post pandemic or during pandemic and post pandemic. We've seen pretty wild market, but when we get back to more normalization, there is that ebb and flow of a busy spring, and then people just chill out.
And also consistency and persistency is king. If you don't have consistent behavior, I talk about this a lot, but if you don't have consistent, I saw a reel the other day and I put it on my story, and it was basically a gentleman talking about someone that he was talking about athletically fit males, right?
Yes.
And what he was saying is you're not born that way. So if you're an athletically fit male, you've probably for an extended period of time worked out, probably with weights or some other means to build your physique. You've eaten right and eaten healthy. You've chosen a lifestyle of health, and nothing happened overnight, and probably weeks or even months, but over the course of a long time. So you have the ability to be consistent without results effective immediately, knowing if I continue to do this, theoretically, I do believe that I'm going to get results at some point, and I'm okay paying now to receive those results later. And so he was saying, I would much prefer to work with, as far as a business relationship, with an athletic male. And I mentioned it to my wife, who's in pharmaceuticals, and she's in a pharmaceutical rep, and she was saying that they love to hire
True.
both female and male
Yes.
because it shows persistent consistency and pride to a degree. You're taking care of yourself, but it's much easier sometimes to maybe not eat as healthy or skip that workout or whatnot, but you're not going to, generally speaking, get those results without that consistency. And it's the same with real estate. Unless you're consistent during those down times and you're structured during the busy times, you're never going to get to that next level, or really any level.
Yeah, it's if you're kind of looking into somebody's ability to be structured by basically what you were saying, which is
but
a very
it's
good
the same
point.
as real estate in the parallel that there's no instant result. Even if someone comes on our team, we give them an appointment, which we do, and it's set up and they're approved and they make an offer immediately. You know this, but they're not going to get paid for 30, 45, 60, 90 days if it closes. And if that's the most immediate situation. So even then it's months away. Right. So, but usually it takes time, and you got to show them enough homes that they're comfortable, and it's a process. So the realtor's mentality, in my opinion, is similar to that of an athlete, that, they're going to continue to work towards a goal, whether that's speed or, in my example, was physique and health. There's nothing that comes immediately. It's a long-term sacrifice for a goal that's in the future at some point. You don't even know when.
I'm just going to go recruit from the gym after this.
Yeah.
I'm going right to the gym. Start recruiting.
And listen, there's plenty of realtors that take another path, but there is something to be said for consistency in your lifestyle, because that will, a lot of times in my experience, come through in other aspects of your life, including real estate, including family, including things that are important to you. You're going to try to make those things a priority, and you're going to try to be consistent throughout life.
Yeah. And for, we basically touched on an agent's perspective of the spring market, but for our buyers and sellers, it's kind of, more of the same. The market is continuing to, in our area, to be one that you have to have patience and you have to be a little aggressive.
I do still believe it will pull back. It has to. Everything is cycles. The issue that we're running into of why it hasn't pulled back is simple, and we've talked about that. It's inventory.
Mm-hmm.
If the inventory remains low and the demand remains extremely high, we had one agent make, I think I said this the other day, 120. There was 120 offers. 120 offers.
120 offers.
I think we were second or something.
He actually had the better offer, but it wasn't. It wasn't pulled together at the right moment.
We were 119 out of 120.
We were, and he it was basically almost a tie, but from what I heard, that the seller went with an offer that was kind of right up front, was presented in a certain way, versus stuff coming in after. So almost number one on 120. So kudos to that. But yeah, the fact that there was 120 is absolutely insane.
So what we said before holds true. So if there's theoretically 119 buyers left over from that particular property.
Yeah.
The next time
That's a
something
lot.
lists, even if it's not as nice and the same price, maybe half of those buyers, maybe more, would be interested in making
Yeah.
an offer. So then you're left with 60,
That's a
right?
lot. Yeah.
So and that's going to take time, and I don't know if that's 6 months or a year or whatnot. And I think there's going to be some level of frustration with buyers where they just sit out for a period of time. We're seeing that a little bit.
Sure, certainly.
And others that have obviously that one person secured homes and other people will rent, and there's going to be a change. But as far as the dynamic shift of their a retraction or depreciation in values in this particular area, and again, it is very specific with not only the state but the area, the town, sometimes areas of town. That's going to depend on inventory. So if you start seeing inventory rise, and would have to rise significantly for a period of time just to eat up the volume, the buyer volume is just so high. But then you're going to see the days on market extend a bit. They're going to be on the market longer. Eventually, you'll start to see some reductions. Once you see that, then you're on your way.
Well, the real inventory is the 2 to 3 week, even 3 weeks long. The 2 week period, that's the real inventory right now, because anything that's staying on longer is sitting there because it's either extremely overpriced or there's something wrong with the house. There's something undesirable and then obviously once it gets to buyers who know that there's a kind of a short window, that sometimes they're even tracking those homes. They may be overlooking them in general. So even if inventory kind of ticks up, I think it has to tick up pretty significantly, because we may see inventory kind of slightly increase, but that might be old stale inventory that's just unrealistic at this point, whether it's the purchase price or something wrong with the house.
And even those, a lot of times, are seeing going. Sometimes people are starting to settle, saying, I just want to get in the game. I just want to get a home. I don't want to rent anymore. I need more space.
Yeah.
And sometimes those homes, that, like to your point, that are grossly overpriced, they're sitting, they will take less. And that's actually sometimes how to get a good deal too.
It is, though. So you can play a little game that way. If you catch the seller at the right time and the property at the right time, you can get a good deal for sure. So I also wanted to, you were recently featured in, not Top Agent, because that's Top Producer magazine, Bergen County.
Real Producers.
Real Producers. Sorry.
What was so cool,
talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a number of articles and magazines and that sort of thing, and newspapers. What was interesting to me about this,
we put it up real quick,
is it was very involved with my life. So when they interviewed me, and she came to my house, and we had a number of questions that were answered ahead of time. Then she did a second interview. She took pictures. But it was, what are my interests? How's your family dynamic? Cool. How's that work? Interest, hobbies. How did real estate come about? So it was really, it was a lot on my family. It was a lot on my interests, like jujitsu and working out and the things that we've talked about in the podcast. So I found that to be very neat. I thought it was cool that they did that. It wasn't just, they did mention top 0.1% in the country, and that I got top producer in Bergen County 2022 and some of the accolades that they mentioned, which was nice, but it didn't so much focus on that as it did the personal stuff, which I thought was awesome. Yeah,
it was a pretty extensive article. So that was quite exciting. Anything in particular from that you took out, as being something that you'll remember or stick with you?
Yeah, she was taken back at the amount of charity work that I've done, and that, we want to give back, and I'm not saying this the wrong way, but we do a lot of charity. She saw my jiu-jitsu school. She actually went downstairs and took a look at it. The club, that it's free. I do it for the kids. And she was asking about the parties. I do typically 2 parties a year where, I put it out for the kids, and we do something fairly extravagant. I try to make it different. Like I said, the one winter I made my entire garage a beach.
Yeah, you had some pretty interesting.
I remember that one. The sand. I had my landscaper bring like tons of sand in.
I think you wanted to do ice skating too in the back, but
we did an ice skating rink. We did a 60-foot video game truck and laser tag. We've done all types of stuff, but that's fun. And then obviously the work with the animals. She asked about the SPCA, and I told her that, and so I think it went really well. It wasn't just about real estate.
Well, since that was a Bergen County magazine, and you've been in Bergen County, and I've been in myself for quite a while, what are some towns that that you find that you kind of obviously Franklin Lakes, you live there, but some other towns that maybe others might not be as familiar with, and things that you think are really great about those towns?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I love Franklin Lakes. My wife was born and raised there, so that's why we ended up there. But there's a ton of good towns, and I would say it depends on what the priority is. If it's schooling, we have lists, and we're happy to send those out with school rankings. If it's transportation to the city, and you need a
Yeah.
train, or you prefer a train or bus, those that would be dependent too. And then the size of the lots really vary a lot, as well as the property taxes.
Mhm.
But I like, I have a home still in Edgewater. I love
Yeah.
Edgewater. I think it's kind of like the city a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I live, there's stores and restaurants right below us, so we can walk around. There's a little bit of a city block there, but you can still have a car, and it's very easy to park, and so you've got
Yes.
more advantageous stuff like that as far as typical to suburbs, more so than New York City.
Yeah.
And then as you come in, I think Tenafly is a beautiful town. I think it's
Yeah.
got great schools, obviously the train. Glen Rock, Ridgewood, two great towns. I lived in Ridgewood for a period of time. I love Ridgewood. Franklin Lakes, Wyckoff is gorgeous.
Yeah, I think Bergen County offers you a lot of different options. You can be in a town that has a nice downtown next to the train. You can be in somewhere like Edgewater where you're right by the waterfront, and you have a pretty close proximity to the city.
And
Um,
Hohokus and Allendale both
you can
have little small
you can
towns.
yeah, you can
and
go into a
train.
little bit more remote, maybe like Oakland. And some parts of Oakland that are a little further out that give you a lot more space and pretty much has anything for everybody.
And a
Great
lot of the
schools.
clients that come from the waterfront, where we do a lot of business, and Manhattan, where we have agents, they ask us, here's what I'm looking for. What towns would you suggest?
Yeah.
And then we'll try to narrow it down to a town, 2 or 3, and take them to those towns and show them the town itself, show them the schools,
Yeah.
restaurants, and it's either going to be enough for them, or they're looking for more or less. I would like more space, more lot, more trees, or I want more urban feel. I want sidewalks and restaurants.
We're pretty fortunate because the county offers all that stuff to us. It's like like you said, someone comes in, I'm kind of looking for this and that. Okay, this is the spot for you.
Yeah. If you look at sections of Mawa, for example, it's going to be much, much different than sections of Cliffside Park.
Yeah.
Right. It's just the town itself is very diverse as far as geographic.
Yeah. 100%. Very recently, we expanded the team into a new market, and talk about that a little bit. Massachusetts.
So I was born and raised in Massachusetts. My father's still active in real estate and some building and development in Massachusetts, and he introduced me to a guy named Mike, who's now on our team and affiliated with us out of Massachusetts. So we're using our system in place with our call center, and setting him up with appointments and that sort of thing. So super excited, super nice guy, very hardworking, and I think it's going to be a great fit, great partnership. But I'm super excited because now we're in New York. Obviously, we're in New Jersey and now Massachusetts. There's some other states that I have my eye on.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what this market does and where I see us going. But I think with Mike, he's a great fit for the team for a number of reasons. But he's a leader, and so I'm super excited to have him. And I feel as though he could build a team within the team that would service Massachusetts, specifically the South Shore of Massachusetts, I would think, and he also services New Hampshire.
I'm not super familiar with Massachusetts. I'm gonna have to get a little bit more familiar with it. I'll rely on you because that's what.
Yeah, so we're excited to be there, and we will be able to send referrals over that way. And we're, like I said, we're getting leads that are coming directly through our call center in New Jersey, with obviously a Massachusetts number. Mm-hmm. So our internal sales agents, which by the way, we're looking to hire another internal sales agent now, which is a licensed agent that would facilitate setting appointments up. So my ISAs now are getting familiar with the Massachusetts MLS and being able to set up appointments through that.
And that was a great way, basically a cheesy segue into any agent out there. Also doesn't have to be an agent, could be someone aspiring to be and working on getting their license. We are certainly looking for that inside sales agent. You can contact us. I can give you a little more information, but it's an amazing way to get to your goal of being more of an established agent instead of just going in cold turkey, which is often can be very difficult.
I related to like a paid internship, right? So it's roughly 25 hours a week. You would be paid hourly plus bonus, but you learn everything. You
Yeah.
learn the systems, both the internal systems we have as well as the external systems that facilitate the lead generation. You have the ability to talk to agents daily, a lot of agents, 20-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, you're speaking to probably hundreds of clients a week versus an agent that start out maybe speaks to one or two
Yeah.
a week.
Yep.
So you have the ability to get on this fast track with
Yes.
the language and being comfortable both with systematic stuff and also with the conversations that are real estate related. So what we've seen is the trajectory of someone that comes into that position, and it's a temporary position in the sense that you're not going to be there forever. That's not our plan. It's usually 6 to 12 months. You kind of pay your dues, so to speak, but you're getting paid in the meantime.
Yeah.
So you have some sort of income coming in, and then you'll transition out to an agent. But when you do that, because you had the experience and the ability and the fortune to speak to all those clients, you're polished. You're able to
Yeah.
speak the language. You know what they're looking for. You know how to set appointments. You know how to get them back on the phone. You know how to facilitate transactions. And so what we've seen is that trajectory
Yeah.
just skyrocket.
You
when
won't
they come
even
out.
know because you've just been doing the work for 6 months. You'll just, you'll be successful without even realizing what led to it.
And we've taken some agents that were sputtering and we've pushed them through. So
Yeah, I'll call it the paid incubation period. We have another question. Oh, all right. Well,
there's one more point I think we had.
yeah, it was more about kind of how do you sustain a successful, building and sustaining a successful real estate business. We've talked about it, but kind of breaking down structure, routine, discipline, and really the key is being building relationships and focusing on your long-term business than being transactional. And that's the thing that actually we were discussing with one of our lender partners is if you're just transactional, you're fine. You'll maybe do good for a short period of time, but to build a structured business, that's going to have to take focusing on not being transactional.
Yeah. To your point, it's building relationships. It's being consistent. Like I said, it's being persistent, but it's also maximizing your time, being efficient with what's most important. And that has shifted for me throughout my career and what I'm focused on, whether it's leading a team or being a single agent. So I've adjusted that accordingly, but it's also adjusted based on season, whether I'm slow or not. It's based on the type of market. I've been in sellers markets, I've been on buyers markets, and occasionally it's neutral, but usually it's one side or the other. But that would shift where I'm expanding a lot of my energy, time, and money, depending on what those market conditions are doing. But to break it down simply, and I keep going back to the same thing, you have to be consistent, but you also have to know if it's working. So what I do see some people that should be successful doing is they are consistent with their process. But then when we dissect that a little bit, it's like, well, why are you spending so much time doing that? Or why aren't you spending more time doing this? For example, with our system, we know if the agent has met the client the first time, and usually you don't sell the home the first time. So did they meet them a second time? We have those percentages and what would be below average, average, and above average. Then we have under contract percent and sold. So for example, if our agent is not meeting the person at the first meeting, we know where the problem is. But if they are meeting them there, and sometimes worse, if they're meeting them twice and still not going under contract, we know there's a disconnect there somewhere, and maybe inventory, but we would be able to figure out better. And so we have systems in place where we're tracking these things and statistics to be able to better assist the agents in maximizing their time and where they're focusing their efforts to get as much productivity as possible.
Yeah. Most especially meeting a high percentage and then not meeting the second time. That's probably the biggest indicator.
That's the biggest waste of time. That's the biggest way. And what we hear some agents saying is, I don't want to waste my time. And then they go out there and they drive 45 minutes. They take their time away from their family. They go through the home. The client clearly doesn't like the home. Sometimes when I'm accompanying, sometimes I see, not on our team, but I see agents pushing a house that they're not going to buy. It's like you're trying to sell something that's not even your product. You should be selling yourself. And being honest with them and providing a service. If you can see in their body language or they're telling you this is not the house for me, move on and try to focus on, okay, that's fine. Why not? What didn't you like about this home? You know, was it just the kitchen? Is it the size? Is it the location? Is it the
Right.
lot? Is it you need a 2-car garage? Did you want a pool? Whatever it is. And then start making those mental notes. And sometimes it's good to write it down, but know what they're looking for. So when you take them to the next property, which is more important, that second meet, you know what they were looking for. And even if it's not exactly what they were looking for, they appreciate that it's much closer to their target. Now
Yeah.
you can start building that relationship, take them back out a third time, and so on and so forth. And you're going to sell them a home.
Yeah, and then as you build those relationships, think about how that one relationship could lead to multiple other relationships. So, you know, going more vertical with that one transaction, it could be um, a interesting way that you try to reach out to, you know, their sphere, or not reach out, but you make it, you know, come up with something to.
Well, one of the things I say at my listing appointment,
Mhm.
and this is where you're going, I think, and it's true, is even if it's a $2 million, $3 million home, and I say this and it's true, it's not going to change my month much. It's not going to change my year at all. It's not going to change my
Right.
career, but your relationship will.
Yeah.
If I can earn your trust and I do a good job, and you say Steve was amazing, he did everything he said he'd do, he was honest, and I highly recommend him, you're going to tell people that. And that's what's going to build my business. I didn't
Right.
come from New Jersey, so I had to build it
Yes.
that way. So I appreciate people like that. And to go into a listing in that example, that's typically not someone I've worked with. So I'm excited to build new business, because again, that will spider web off something I didn't
Right.
have. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I tell them flat out, like, I don't want them to feel pressured. I'm not looking to just push the sale, and I'm not. I don't need the money. I don't, I want to sell it. I obviously make commission, but I'm much, much, much infinitely more interested in building a relationship that you can trust me. So you feel very confident that you can refer me to your friends and family. And when you're moving out, your neighbors are going to say, hey, where are you going? Like, congratulations. Yeah. You could refer me. And that's what builds business, not the one transaction.
Yeah. In fact, you can go to a listing appointment, not get the listing, and still get referred by a particular person. And that's happened. So it's always thinking of different ways to, I mean, every interaction should be a thought process of how you could build that relationship with somebody. And
yeah, if you conduct yourself the right way, and you conduct yourself professionally, and you're honest, that comes off. And over time, either you're honest or you're not. You can fake that for a little bit of time, but that will come back, and that comes back in waves when you treat people the right way, and you put their interest oftentimes ahead of your own, so that you can get those referrals back, and you can make sure that they're completely satisfied and happy with the service you provided.
All right, that was awesome. That's a wrap. We're gonna head out, get on with our spring market here because we're busy.
Appreciate it. We got a couple awesome guests, I think, that we're trying to line up. So
we definitely have some people lined up. It's gonna be exciting. Different topics, different aspects of real estate. Bring different perspectives about what goes into real estate. Braconi, Vast Real Estate, at Vast Real Estate, and T Braconi on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe, like, comment.
Appreciate all the support. Continue to hear from people, and we appreciate everything. We look forward to assisting anyone that needs our help.
Bye, everybody.